Hi, this is Randy Wykoff, the Dean of the College of Public Health at East Tennessee State University, and I'm pleased to provide the weekly COVID-19 pandemic update with data accurate through March 24th, 2022. This week, I'm going to address three questions. Is the pandemic slowing down, still slowing down? What milestone did the U.S. pass this week? And I'll give you a word from the most interesting dean in the world. So is the pandemic still slowing down? Well, interestingly, this is actually a hard question to answer because in some ways the pandemic is not slowing down and in other ways it is. Where it's not slowing down is in terms of cases. Remember, we saw this very broad Omicron surge at the end of the last year and the beginning of this year. And then we saw it starting to come down. But in the last month or so, clearly the number of cases has leveled off and perhaps even coming up a little bit. At the same time, we're not seeing the same kind of increase in deaths. And in fact, the number of deaths is at the lowest point it's been since the first couple of months of the pandemic. So totally 6,100,000 deaths worldwide, perhaps a lot more than that, as we talked about last week, and almost 5,000 deaths a day. So while the number is coming down, 5,000 deaths is still a pretty significant number. If we look at the three most impacted countries in Europe, France, England, and the United Kingdom and Germany, we see the same pattern. We're seeing an upsurge in the number of cases, but no significant change in the number of deaths. So perhaps that's because this particular variant, the Omicron subvariant BA2 or whatever, may be less lethal. It may be, and perhaps is, because more people are now immune between immunization and natural infection and so on. But nonetheless, whenever you see the number of cases going up, you have to keep an eye out for what's going to happen with deaths. In the US, we have not seen the number of cases starting to come back up, nor have we seen the number of deaths starting to come back up. And here again, we are at the lowest point almost anywhere since last summer. We've seen a little over 1 million deaths to date in the US, and we're running about 700 deaths a day. When you look at where the pandemic is, again, the Omicron surge went everywhere very, very quickly and then went away. And we're seeing, again, now just a few scattered clusters around the country. We'll keep our eye on what's going to happen with those. In Tennessee, we're seeing the same pattern we're seeing in the rest of the U.S., number of cases coming down. Again, the number of deaths, the death reporting in Tennessee, I think, has gotten really complicated. 25,000 deaths to date. I think that's fairly accurate. 53 deaths last week. I think that's very low. If you look at the last couple of weeks, again, we talked about this last week, the number of weekly deaths is going up and down so fast that it tells you that's not really what's happening. This is a reporting phenomenon. But again, the basic question is the pandemic slowing down? The answer is no in terms of cases globally, yes in terms of deaths, and we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that that pattern continues. So what milestone did the United States pass this last week? Well, I've already mentioned it. We passed 1 million deaths. 1 million deaths is sometimes hard to get your mind around. So I'll tell you, it's more than the population of all but the top 10 biggest cities in America, more than the population of each of these cities. It's more people than we lose in a year from heart disease, cancer, accidents, or any of the other leading causes of death. In fact, for numbers 3 through 10, if you combine them, they're still not only about half of the number of deaths we've had from COVID. If you look at the number of soldiers who've died, the number of total people who've died in the 10 most lethal wars, these are American numbers, what you can see is 1 million is almost 50% more than all of those wars combined. But here's a way of looking at death during war that's really kind of remarkable. This is the number of deaths per day based on how long the conflict lasted, number of people who died, and so on. And here's COVID, 3 times more. These are huge numbers. I mean, again, it's really hard to get your mind around 1 million people, but that's what's happening. Perhaps the easiest way to think about it is 1 million deaths is about the same as having a September 11th attack every day for a year. 1 million is a really significant number. Now, one of the questions we get most often is, well, what's going to happen next? And I've answered it enough times before, so I thought perhaps today you'd prefer to hear from someone else. So I've been asked an interesting question. what's likely to happen? I think it's like a ball. Every time it goes down, it comes back up. And the next time it goes down, it's most likely to come back up again. Unless no one catches it. Stay healthy, my friends. So is the pandemic still slowing down? No, not in terms of cases. Yes, in terms of deaths. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope it remains that way. We passed 1 million deaths, and you've heard the opinion of the most interesting dean. There's a great deal more information about COVID-19 on the College of Public Health website. Please share this video with anyone who might be interested. The more people who view it, the better off it is. Thanks as always to Dara Young for editing, producing, and posting this video, and for doing all the production work on the most interesting dean. If you have any questions about what I've said this week or any other aspect of the COVID-19 pandemic, please let me know. I really do look forward to hearing from you. Until next week, please be well.